Hi, everybody. It's John Wolpert and the Baseline crew here for yet another week of fun Baseline office hours. Lots to talk about today, but I think we'll probably have a pretty short session today because we're all super busy getting ready for upcoming stuff in September and October, most notably the ETH Atlanta uh, hackathon and general keynote session. There'll be industry there. There's going to be very cool folk. Hey, Jack Lee, you want to plug ETH Atlanta for us here?
Yeah, certainly. Starting off right with it. Hey, uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
October 1 through 3, right?
October 1 through 3rd. Yep.
And
One
you
through
can,
three. Uh, Friday, as we had articulated in the past, and the agenda. We are working to get a full announcement here through the end of this week or into early next. And we've been shoring it up very. It's coming together very nicely. Friday will encompass the keynotes that we're really looking forward to. Saturday will, and Friday will kick off the hackathon, I believe around noon. And then that'll be followed by keynotes Friday evening, which will then roll into Saturday. We will have food trucks there the entire time, a number of other activities ongoing, but Saturday we'll have a set of baselining systems of record, a number of tracks predicated on that, encompassing things like Salesforce, Dynamics 365, Azure, Excel, SAP, ServiceNow, Splunk, and then I'm sure I'm missing a couple into that as
I think you're
well.
working on my boss, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which we're certainly excited to incorporate into the keynotes Friday evening. That'll we're certainly hoping to have Joe participate.
He likes a good fireside. I think he's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we have a number of good fireside chats lined up for Friday evening. Um, yeah, many of which we're going to be unveiling further here. But then into Saturday night, we have just a number of different panel conversations set up. One relative to creators um, uh, and really like the creator economy. We're going to have one predicated on DeFi. We're going to have one built on the Ethereum community more generally. We might have like a media focused one as well. And there's kind of a couple others that we're putting together right now that we have some good participation in. So yeah, we're really looking forward to it. And then that'll Saturday night we're gonna have music ongoing, calling it ETH Beats. We got a DJ all set up, and actually there's actually we're getting some significant interest coming from some different musicians from Atlanta. Hotlanta is looking to get involved, as well as some of the creators within Hotlanta, and really within the space more generally. We're going to have like an NFT creator space, just similar to that they've had at ETH Denver. Um, and then Sunday, we will have judges be evaluating the hackathon, and that'll conclude around noon on Sunday, I believe.
Outstanding. Very exciting. And yeah, maybe we can get some good music for the baseline show for out of that or something. I did reach out to the folks that do this song. I did reach out to them, and the band was like, "Yeah, this is cool." And then they referred me to their studio, so their label. So we'll work on that. See if we can
I,
get rights to use it more than 10 seconds long.
like
Um,
I like how the song is kind of so ingrained in the heads here that you get the head bobbing. It's kind
yeah.
of like Night at the Roxbury.
All right.
Scarily, yes, very
I'm
scary.
now,
So
John, I'm now ready with so hey, Samrat here.
hey,
I'm
Samrat.
now ready with I'm now ready with the new tune. So this Saturday it's coming.
Awesome. So yeah, so everybody, big quick plug. If you're in India at 6 p.m. on Saturday, on all Saturdays, and that's 8:30 a.m. as I recall in the U.S. Eastern Time Zone on Saturday morning, uh, or Saturday evening India time, India IST. the Samrat runs the Baseline show from there. Samrat and I have been talking a lot about how to improve the show, as it were, the office hours. These were just supposed to be office hours. I think at this point, we've folks who were the early adopters, they know what to do. So we don't get a lot of questions anymore about how to do this or how to do that. But I should like to hope that, and out there, everybody out there in the community, that after September and certainly October, with the drop of all these tools coming out of Provide, things like Base Ledger and other things, that the easy button will be there for developers, and we're going to start to see a lot of, hey, I need to be able to do this, and hey, how do I configure that, and what's going on with this, and how do I get involved on that? That's the purpose of the show, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get a lot more of that now that it'll be implementing the Baseline standard will be hopefully in October, starting in October, fun and easy, and at least straightforward for any journeyman developer. So very excited about that. But in addition to that, Samrat and I are lining up submissions, so people who can sign up to be interviewed one-on-one during those shows. So if you have a business that doesn't have to be about the updates about Baseline specifically. It can be about problems with sync between different systems of record, different companies, supply chain issues, and others. So we're going to be lining up interviews. And in September, when our full-time Baseline project manager comes aboard on September 1, they'll be able to help make sure that we get that right every week. So today and really the remaining August Baseline shows will be pretty minimal, and then hopefully in September and October we're going to come out with a new and improved format to go along with what we expect to be quite an upgrade in the experience of developing on the Baseline standard. And speaking of the Baseline standard, Andreas Freund is here, and I think that we can celebrate today that we're probably one table read, maybe two, away from releasing the draft standard, which is finished, to the ratification process. This is a big deal. And I'm going to pull up this is here's for those who are watching on YouTube, you'll see the Baseline GitHub baseline-standard GitHub, and you'll see that not everything has been merged to the main branch, but and Andreas, remind me which of the, if they want to see the most recent stuff, it's in Sec 3.
Sec 5.
Sec 5. So if you go to Sec 5
59
branch,
PR 59.
Right. So if you go to pull request 59, that will be the most recent stuff. And so if you're really interested in reading standards, this is where it'll be. And you can see here that we've got all the work. Any would you like to say anything else about that?
Well, we have over 300 requirements, about 30 odd recommendations, and 50 plus conditional requirements that if you choose to implement an option, then there are additional requirements with that. So we are actually in the process of creating an implementation guide to make it easier for implementers to build their own implementation. This is obviously not like a straight like cut and paste of a reference implementation, but more of a by requirement. Hey, this is what it means, and here's an example of how this could be implemented, or what you need to keep in mind, really keep in mind when you implement it, with plenty of links to different types of open source code that can be used to build your own very personal baseline protocol implementation.
Right on. And this is very important for for adoption by companies, right? The companies are gonna, they want to be safe. They want to know that they've got good standards that they're working with for this sort to keep, to make sure that they are implementing integrations in a safe and effective manner. One of the things I think we'll put out is if anybody watches or listens to ADSM podcasts, I think we're gonna put out one like this. R10, a commercial document, must not be repudiable. Note that while non-repudiation in the physical world is most often tied.
Yeah, you absolutely need to do that. That's
Oh yeah,
like, that
the
would be a
CIOs will be able to
total,
go to sleep with it. They'll just put it on and fall asleep.
it's like put it on Audible. It will be a big hit. Charge $5.99 for it, and people will it's just like
And you'll wake up in the morning and it will all be in your head.
That's right.
It will
You'll
be
just
all in your head.
You won't be able to not be baseline standard compliant. You'll just your head will explode if you try to not be compliant with it.
That is exactly right. That is exactly right. It is slightly so the interesting thing is there's an effort being kicked off now by the Ethereum Foundation around sort of like replicating what Baseline has done in the wider community around layer 2s and bringing together enterprises, the venture capitalists that actually fund layer 2 projects and the layer 2 projects, of course, to build standards for layer 2s and interoperability, as our as the recent Polychain hack demonstrated. It's really important to have standards, and it's really important to have certifications, because if you're moving hundreds of millions of dollars back and forth, you better be safe, otherwise there's a lot of sorry at the end.
Right. So congratulations, Andreas. You did a great job writing on it. Anais, so Frank, if you're out there on YouTube tuning in, we'd like to give a big shout out, because this, Anais, made that committee happen and was extraordinarily good at getting all the, herding all the cats and making sure that we drove to the end. And I think really was a great team up between Andreas and Anais, and it's a good example of how, we have over 1,000 people, 1,100 now people. It's just in the Slack for Baseline, and 2 people with a lot with great help from others. I mean, Ron from SAP was in many of the meetings. Obviously, I've attended many. We've all had something to say. Sam Stokes has done great work, and I'm missing important people here, but at the end of the day, the hard, just sloggy work came down to Anais and Andreas, and it's pretty par for the course for these kinds of community. The Pareto rule is in play, and you guys are on the right side of the Pareto rule. Congratulations!
Thank you, John. Anais has given the master of cat herding.
She might give Hudson Jameson a run for his money.
She's giving Hudson Jameson a run for his money in her effort. So it's like, I think we have 2 masters now.
I think some of the feedback we get from the community, and I want to read some of these questions that are coming in on YouTube, is that when one tries to sell a company on the idea of baselining, if you get into things like ZK circuits and that sort of thing, they just it's very complicated for them. So Jack and and Sam and the team on the implementation side, on the code side, it's really important for us to get those tools out to them so that they can adhere to the standard, but not have to be a systems level enthusiast like Andreas to get to grok it and implement it. You know, they can't be writing zero knowledge circuits from scratch in their heads with math, right? So yeah, those tools are going to be really important. I know that Provide's got a number of them coming out, both open source and commercial available stuff. So that'll be exciting.
Yep, really important, really important. The more I remember the early days of smart contract development on Ethereum, and that was painful.
Yeah. And by the way, Jack, if you can go audible to your friends at Provide, I know that Sam and some other folks and I were on a call this morning. We're gonna create a checklist of things that, you know, that for those of us who have tried to use like BRI1, what do we need to, you know, like what sucked about that? What, you know, this was missing. I was confused here. This needs to happen. This is, you know, this is missing. I need an NPM, you know, stuff like that. You know, and we're so that we can just kind of start to compile a checklist to make sure that the things that are being released in September and October are, you know, gonna cut the mustard when it comes to, you know, viral adoption at this point, right? Developers have got to, it's got to be fun, easy, straightforward, and satisfying to be able to start a baselining project. And with that, you know, Lauren Gibson, you did some research with a bunch of companies without naming names, if you can. There were some interesting insights. You want to the one that I'm reminded in particular about is, you know, that when things go wrong in getting paid by a customer, how it's not always that they're paying late or forgetting or going out of business, but it has to do with things like price changes. Do you want to, I might be putting you on the spot. Lauren, are you still there? She might be away from the mic.
Yeah, sorry, I just got back. Yeah, you know, I think that the interesting thing that I found as well most recently was that there can be, you know, we are talking about like updated problems related to COVID and transportation, you know, at this company. And related to that, yeah, we're seeing, you know, problems in the consumer packaged goods industry. They're moving lots of products around, and due to the transportation issues that we're seeing in shipping just all throughout the United States, like it's interesting that we're seeing these problems in the how would I put this, the purchasers of these CPG supplies, they are actually saying that they have not received a product, for example. And so I think it's interesting that we like an interesting problem that we can try to solve related to customers saying that they have not received a package, and yet they actually did receive it. And so these sorts of problems are actually taking 6 months to maybe a year to resolve, just to say that you actually did receive a product when you didn't. And to see that there are disputes on such invoices, you know, that's just something that we're really working on to understand.
Just the ugly business of keeping companies' information in sync. It's crazy, and how badly things go wrong when that's not the case, right?
Sometimes I think there's a financial incentive for them not to get it right, though, John.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
You know, I mean, we've been running into with our medical provider, right? You go and you get, what do they call it? The payments you make, co-pays and all that stuff, right? And my wife is a Virgo. She's very diligent about keeping track of all these things, and the fact that we paid them. And this one particular hospital keeps saying that we haven't paid these things. And it's been going on for, at this point, close to a year on 12 different transactions. we've gone to the bank, we've got documentation, we've paid it to the right account, shared it with them, goes to their billing department, and they still want to pursue it for collections. So it's like, I wonder how many times they're billing people that aren't as, as organized as my wife. And they're just like, oh, it's only another $30. I'm just going to pay it. Or it's only another $25. I'm going to pay it. Or it's another, you know what I mean? And how much revenue they're making on that. And there's very little incentive for them to fix it sometimes. But it's sad. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really telling when you hear these big companies, how they actually pinpoint the exact companies whose accounts payables representatives, they dislike. It does seem like it's kind of ingrained in the system somehow. And also, I was just thinking, Nick, about how different accounts payables accounts payables representatives have to deal with various systems. So it's very different being an accounts receivables representative versus accounts payables, because if receivables, you're only dealing with one software, but an accounts payables person, they have to go to this software and then this software. So these people actually deal with, they have to, code switch, so to say, of how to pay. And, that would be.
I see Mark Hattle's head bobbing. I mean,
I can see that smile. Yeah.
He's grown old dealing with this problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. And Lauren, you called it code switching. There's actually a term called context switching that years ago, scientific research demonstrated that context switching is the number one cause of human error, right? Because you're switching from one to the next, and so it's a big problem.
Yeah.
Anyway,
my last company, or a couple of companies ago, we bought a .NET company that was writing their code in .NET, and we were all in Erlang, and just the errors that started happening just on capitalization errors in the code, just, because we had to switch, but mentally switch between the two languages. It was bad. Mark's also nodding his head on that one. Mark Hattle, everyone, the famous and illustrious Mark Hattle. Supply chain.
The biggest thing within
genius.
Context shift has given developers a really compelling reason just to sit there and say, leave me alone, don't context shift me. If you want to ask a question.
Yeah. The one that here's kind of what I was fishing for also, Lauren, was in this, Jack, I think is an interesting thing from a perspective of Base Ledger is, there's a good trade in laziness, right? So it's arguably overkill to use baselining for internal systems, right? When you're trying to have synchronize machines inside your own company, you just throw up Kafka and you're good, right? It's not actually, no, it's not that easy at all, but it's a thing you can do, and it's not that expensive, especially if you just, implement it yourself. However, if and when something like Base Ledger's out there, it's inexpensive, it's just got a stable price, it's pay as you go, and it's not, and it's kind of almost like it's a service for synchronization. I can see the problem of a price change not updating between, say, your CRM system, not getting into the customer's ERP system. Those are both run by that customer, but they're not integrated well. And you can imagine that as with the pressure of external organizations saying, hey, we need to synchronize, then companies go, well, we better make sure our internal systems are more synchronized and we clean up our internal mess. And, there's Base Ledgers out there. Why don't we just use that? It's a lot easier than just setting up another Kafka or something like that, or MQ. So, unless you need, there's a lot of things that MQ does that Baseline doesn't actually address. But if all you need to do is sync and have verifiable sync, then you should just be able to just have a no-brainer, right? And go, oh yeah, I'll just use Base Ledger for that. So that could help. Let's go to some questions here. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
I was going to say, and that's a process that's commonly done when companies are either installing or upgrading a risk management information system, an RMIS, and to where they're just basically tying all the stuff and having a REST proxy and then just organizing all of the APIs just so they can have read-only access on a single pane of glass. So they can actually look at all this stuff. It's batch updated probably, nightly. But, and that served the purpose, I mean, I guess for a while, but having it in real time would be a really compelling selling point.
Yeah.
Or at least a differentiator to say, hey, why are you waiting? You're going to know tomorrow if you were right. Wouldn't you like to know now? So,
Well, I
And-
mean,
and that
yeah, go ahead.
brings to the news, right, of JP Morgan, right? They just released like a payment feature that's like that moves in real time, right?
I mean, we also reporting. I mean, SAP, for example, is good at now. You can run queries on your live system. HANA makes that a lot easier. You're not. It used to be that you couldn't query the system that was running the transactions. It would blow it up. But
That
at
was
least,
a long time ago, John. You've been able to get away from that since at least 1995. Having worked at Oracle, I sold those systems. Sorry, but nonetheless, I'm just laughing at the reference.
Well,
I
speaking
stopped.
of Oracle,
My current mental state, I can only remember things from before 1995. So it's
but speaking of Oracle,
is that you, little Nicky? Is that you?
I know
No
you
double
were-
locking. Real application clusters get all the performance you need without any changes to your application code. Sorry, Lauren.
In my day,
More
we
me.
used Informix.
No worries. This was just something to tie into what Mark was saying. I got off a call last week after the baseline office hours where found out a major CPG company, one of their customers had switched to had switched ERP systems, and they switched to Oracle, which ties into Nick's background, and they copied the codes wrong, so that the trade sales codes wrong, and they were actually putting them under one code that gave them a longer time for payment. And this large CPG company is currently dealing with millions and millions of dollars of late payments and fines, and just due to switching ERP systems and those codes not updating correctly.
So for those who don't know, Lauren Gibson, everyone, Lauren is on a mission this summer to find all sorts of companies and understand how they are challenged in terms of saying, what goes wrong when when one company is trying to get paid by another company, what goes wrong when purchase orders happen between companies or any other data sync issues. And and if you have a story for Lauren, Lauren, how do we get a hold of you on Twitter? You want to put up your Twitter handle or something?
Just made a Twitter, but I'm still working that out. But feel free to message me, on Slack.
Go to baseline-protocol.org and look up at the top right corner. There's the Slack button there, and you can get on the Slack channel and find Lauren there.
Yeah. And I've gotten a few responses from people from the baseline community, and it's really just been great, to meet people who are interested in this sort of like new technology that we're all building. So, if you even just want to talk to me and, let me understand what you're interested in for what we're building, I'd be really interested too.
Right on. And Lauren, are you going to be at ETH Atlanta, you think?
I think most definitely. I really want to be there.
All right, cool. So you can see, y'all can talk to Lauren there as well. All right. So some of the questions on the YouTube. Is there a chance that Coca-Cola and Kona and Coke bottling companies will go global with baselining? Jack, I think that's a question for you.
For baselining. Coca-Cola go global with it as opposed to just like Kona from North American supply chain perspective.
I think that's what Daryl Fowler was asking on YouTube there.
Thanks for the question, Daryl. Good question. There's certainly a good chance of that. um, with the type of buy-in that we're getting from senior leadership there at Kona, I think that we could see this permeate into different type of workflows and work streams there at Kona. And I do know that the senior leadership of Kona is a huge entity and important facet of Coca-Cola proper. So I don't see any reason as to why this won't permeate into Coca-Cola, especially with the opportunities that are enabled just in these kind of open networks and the opportunities to build new services revenue on top of it and to really start moving into more of the DeFi landscape and the opportunities that are involved there. I certainly think that, you know, Kona is aware of those, and I think that Coca-Cola is as well. And I foresee Coca-Cola moving in that direction.
Kavya, of course, nobody here can really speak for them, but yeah, it seems like the stands to reason that you know, as it becomes more end-to-end integrated and more pervasive, the utility goes up, and there's more reasons to use it in wider and wider use cases, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Coca-Cola is just an innovative organization in itself. You know, they just recently did the NFT like 2 weeks ago, which I thought was pretty cool. You know, it's still kind of in the initial phases, but it's cool to see organizations of their stature, you know, demonstrating that. And yeah, so I certainly think that we can see it permeate into Coke.
Yeah, well, everything Coke has done over the years, right? From even the creation of Kona as an outsourced IT services firm, effectively, right, serving their own bottlers, is hugely innovative. And Coke's been an innovator, as you pointed out, for years. And Kona is one of their largest kind of innovation hubs within their greater ecosystem. So,
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for somebody to NFT the cell of the of Fonzie jumping the shark. That'll be when somebody buys that NFT, I'll know that it's over.
At the top at that point. Yeah, as part of that, Nick, I do know that, you know, Kona's had the flexibility. They're known to be an organization that has the flexibility to pursue those type of innovative endeavors. And those are the type of organizations that we're finding the most success within the baseline community. Those that are, you know, from a baselining perspective, from a utilization of the provided platform perspective, those are the organizations that we're seeing really have the opportunity to kind of build in these ways and see the opportunities to leverage baselining, and again, the services that can be built on top of it, and then building into the much bigger thing, which is the DeFi side of it. I mean, we're at the forefront of building the new business settlement network, business settlement layer, I should say more specifically. I think that's going to be quite powerful as we continue to move forward.
Right on. Daryl had a follow-up question. What is the biggest hurdle do we see right now for baseline mass adoption? Andreas, Sam, you know, Luis, you guys are living with this day to day. Jack, what are we seeing as, obviously, you know, having something that, you know, you can kind of do the same swing over and over again with, you know, something that's out there and standing like a base ledger L2, I imagine will help with mass adoption, right? Because you just won't have to think as hard about where you're going to put your proofs and standing that up, or having to set it up on mainnet and pay gas fees. What else? I mean, what are some other things that,
I would say all the things that we're working towards as a community here as well, you know, from the V1 release, from the standard, I mean, that's going to be huge in itself, to the base ledger testnet being live and going into production. That's going to be essential as well. And then having from a provide perspective, the documentation that's essential to get started, you know, and as we ultimately go and open source the core services of the stack, which we're preparing and ourselves to do so, that's going to be a huge piece in enabling that as well. Part of it also is how complex these systems really are. And, you know, it's something that, you know, we had part of this conversation around the challenge and understanding what a ZKP is. I mean, that's just one core piece of the multitude here in building these big open networks. And so I think those pieces will all really kind of help cement that. And I think as we work up to ETH Atlanta, a lot of that stuff is going to be launched and announced, and that will be there for public digestion, if you will.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Luis and Sam, I won't put you on the spot, but I invite you to make any comments you have about what you'd like to see. What is the tool or the component that you wish was there when you're trying to set this stuff up or deal with it? I know that ZK itself has a lot of people running aground, right? They're like, that's scary. But I'll leave that question out there. I think another. Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
I was going to say, I mean, have we paid any attention to, I guess, the first couple of laps? A company comes in and says, we really enjoy it. We want to baseline this. Where's our starting point? I mean, do we do an evaluation of the architecture? Do we do just kind of a light risk analysis just to find out where is everything? How big is it? How robust is it? Where's the starting point? How do those first 3 laps around the track look? You could say, all right, we want to do this. We want to buy it. Let's execute the agreement. This is our CISO, our head of engineering. You're going to be working with him. How do we go in and approach them and say, okay, hi, we are, this is baseline protocol. How do we get started?
Yeah.
If I may be so bold as to offer a suggestion, kind of a pattern that I've found very successful in many years talking to enterprise companies or large companies selling software of all kinds. The first thing you need to do is seek to understand their organization, their strategic requirements, and what they're trying to achieve. Then understand if their organization has the depth and maturity to be able to deliver on those, or if you need to bring in partners, right? Someone that can help them implement it. In the case of Baseline, for example, it's so new, the standard's just coming out. If you're going to do it yourself, you're going to need to bring all these components together and integrate them on a set of servers yourself and get them working. Or you could call Provide and use their stack and you're up and running overnight or in hours, right? That kind of thing. And then make sure you're connecting their strategic intent with the tactical pain that you're solving, right? So they can see a direct link between the work being produced by you, your partner, your solution, and the value they need to generate. And I'll just get off my soapbox for my value selling soapbox there, but that's it, right?
I think all the solutions providers should be snipping that section, right, Nick, and playing it over, because that's what they need to be doing, right?
I'm
still always make sure you're listening. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
I'm still taken with the second sentence that you had over there. If an organization has the depth and maturity to actually make it through, there's too many ifs in that sentence.
There is, and that's
always has been.
Well, there is, and that's kind of indicative of the state of where we are with the protocol itself and the standard, right? Mm-hmm. The more mature it gets, the less ifs there are, right? Nobody worries if their organization is strong enough, deep enough, mature enough for TCP/IP, for email, for web servers, right? Because all that stuff, you can push a button and get it on the web, outsourced 80 different ways, right? So, the kinds of decisions you make are more business and less technical. Anyway,
I think in general, when I think about what you said, what you said, Nick, about maturity, I think about, really the maturity of a company to handle IT transformation projects in general, right? And that's been a problem for decades. And I'm sanguine that, again, if it's easy, if it becomes easier, more straightforward, quicker, more service, proof to integrate systems across different companies, then I think that drives a lot of maturity internally. Because honestly, you don't clean up your own room, but you clean up the house when the neighbors are coming over. So if I'm saying, hey, I'm only going to buy your invoices from you if they're properly synchronized between buyers and suppliers, then the buyers and the suppliers are going to need to be a lot more careful about cleaning up their own internal messes. And so, I'm hopeful. Hope springs eternal, but I'm hopeful the Baseline has that effect on folks.
Light makes the cockroaches scatter.
And certainly see the most investment into it by those that see the opportunity to build growth on top of baselining. You know, there's certainly the opportunity from an operationalization perspective and the cost savings. I know from a Kona perspective, the two pieces that they were really sought after in their decision to be moving from Hyperledger to baselining and this new model, and that was the operationalization that they could achieve through it and the immense cost savings, as well as the enablement to their ecosystem and the future growth that they can drive on top of this network that they're building. And so when we're looking kind of into these, you know, those that are investing into this or starting to set their sights on baseline and the opportunity to leverage it, it's those that are seeing the opportunity to build on top of this as well that seem to really be the most deeply invested. I mean, you know, very interesting perspective just to provide a little bit on. Kyle recently participated with BSN, the CEO Yifan He, in a recent discussion, and Yifan He and BSN are actually going to be participating at ETH Atlanta as well, which we're really excited about. And as part of that, you know, something that they were really interested in discussing around baselining and in the potentiality in building with Provide is the opportunity to build services on top of it, the enablement that they could ultimately provide their respective ecosystems and the system, the network that they're building there within China, the opportunity to really enable those respective ecosystems that are integrating into it, of which there are the many different public and private networks doing so.
More efficient processes, lower cost, better data. Those are great CTO, CIO, CFO conversations. That lays the foundation for building new channels, new businesses, whole new revenue streams. That's a CEO, CFO conversation. And it's definitely enabled by baseline. So yeah, very cool stuff. I get excited.
Everybody. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summation. I like the, you know, I think that ultimately we need to be talking about the synchronizing of systems of record across the internet in accordance with standards. That's really the story that people are going to listen to. It's not, you know, the big problem with mass adoption in the enterprise right now, I think, is the minute you start putting up blockchain as the center point of that conversation, right, and especially public blockchain, they just run for the hills because they don't get it yet. They don't understand how to use that safely and effectively. It's not about that. It's about synchronizing systems of record across the internet in a way that's stateful, and things like Baseledger, you know, implementing the baseline protocol properly, it will be a always on tamper resistant service for synchronizing state across the internet. It's not across blockchain, across the internet. And I think that is something that most CIOs, CISOs, and CTOs can, you know, who have jobs in, you know, companies of various sizes can get their heads around and go, oh yeah, well, yeah, it'd be very convenient for me to have such a thing, right? With that, I think we might be able to wrap. Any last parting shots before we? I know that, you know, we're going to be, again, as the next couple of weeks, we're all getting ready for a big set of things going on in September, October. And so, you know, but after that, I expect that the office hours are really going to heat up, and we'll be able to turn our attention to good form and function. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, ideas?
Hey, Jack, if you were going to come to ETH Atlanta, what hotel would you book? Because, you know, it's 21-day advance is going to get you the best rates and all that kind of stuff. So want to be mindful of that in my my role, making sure that the people on my team don't spend too much when they're on the road.
Great question. That's a good question. I do know that when we had done 2018, we had provided a list of when we had done ETH Atlanta 2018, we had provided a list of hotels that'll be released with kind of some of the directions and suggestions that we provide once we go live with the agenda and live with some of the speakers and a little bit of the code of conduct for the event on what to a little bit more expect. Also, if you're a little bit new age like me, there's this thing called Airbnb. You can try that as well. They're all around.
And if
So-
you're super new age, you can stay with Jack for free.
You can, because I'm gonna get a sweet Airbnb.
I'm
Yeah,
pulling
by
up I'm pulling up the map here, and so folks can see. Atlanta Tech Park is right here. Hyatt Place Atlanta, North Cross, Peachtree, and there's also we stayed at Marriott Peachtree
Further
Corners.
down, right there. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where you're staying, folks. Oops.
And just
Yeah,
for,
Atlanta Tech
for
Park.
for the sake of reference, this is about probably 15, 20 miles north of Atlanta proper.
Yeah, and just to add a little bit more context again, I know I mentioned this in the past. We are working very hard with the facilities people to ensure, from like a ventilation perspective, that it's a safe event. I know that there's an uprise from a COVID perspective, and so everyone's being
Amy,
very
help!
conscious of that. So we are taking precautions to make sure that it's a safe environment. We were just there last week. The facility is huge. It's going to have no problem housing the expected attendees that we have for the event. And so it's going to be we intend for it to be a safe event for the community.
Doing everything we can. Absolutely. Thanks, Jack.
Certainly.
I got invaded by my kids who were crying, like trying to. They're like, "Hey, Dad, let me show you this new toy." I'm like, in a second, kid." And Drama says I'll be at the W Hotel. Like, apparently that's where they'll be. Anyway, yeah. So that was great question about location. Thanks, Nick. And with that, I think we'll take us out on the Baseline show. Everybody have a great week and keep on baselining.
Okay, bye everyone.
Cheers, man.
Bye.